I'm excited to bring up our next speakers, also powerhouse females. We're going to be talking about spatial agents and physical AI with Futurist Cathy Hackl. Cathy, please come up. And Lindsay as well, one of my other favorite females in the space. Super excited to hear this. Thanks, guys.
All right. I'll give you mine. Oh, no problem. We can do sharesies. That's fine. Thank you to Susan, by the way. The pressure's off. We can say whatever we want.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to say anything that controversial. So, not that it is controversial, Susan. I love you.
Okay, who in here already knows who Cathy is? Right. So we have a few people who don't. So I'm going to mention just a little bit of your bio, and this does not cover everything. She is globally recognized in tech and gaming, a futurist, a speaker focused on AI, including spatial computing, visual worlds, next-gen consumer experiences, new commerce models, strategic foresight, gaming. I got to stop. There's too much. You're also future in residence at Nokia.
Yeah. Did anyone catch the news yesterday from GTC? NVIDIA just invested $1 billion in Nokia. Nokia's back. Nokia's back, baby.
And she's not going to say this, but she also got to ask Jensen a question.
Yeah, I got to ask Jensen a question about spatial computing, actually.
Yes. So I have all these questions I was going to ask Cathy, and you know what? We're just going to have a conversation. So let's start, first of all, with spatial computing, because here we are at agentic. You like to focus on the physical AI as well, physical AI world as well. And you're a futurist, so you see what's coming before anyone else. So when it comes to these spaces, what do we in this room need to know right now?
So as a futurist, I do a lot of strategic foresight, but I also work in the trenches, building different, whether it's apps or programs, or all these sorts of things, right? So what I will tell you is that the term spatial computing, obviously a lot of people might have heard of it from Apple Vision Pro, and you might not be too keen on it, but the reality is that there is a mad rush to replace your mobile phone. And I see some of you guys on your phones, and that's okay, right? But eventually, if you look at the signals, and everyone in Silicon Valley, they are all trying to move away from the current mobile phones into new devices. So just this week, I think it was this week or last week, Samsung Galaxy XR announced their new headset. There's all of these new devices coming. OpenAI, as you guys know, is partnering with Johnny Ive to bring something else to the market that will replace your mobile phone. Why does this matter? This matters because as we look at that curve, so Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, always shows this curve where he looks generative AI. We're in this generative AI moment, right? Most of us are using generative AI on a daily basis. We're going into agentic AI, and that takes us to physical AI. So in order for that agentic and physical AI curve to truly get to physical AI, you are going to need spatial computing. You're going to need spatial agents. So not just chatbots that live on your computer or in APIs, you actually need AIs that actually understand and have spatial awareness. So if anyone's following, for example, Fei Li, the godmother, I'm known in tech circles as the godmother of the metaverse.
I should have led with that.
Yeah, it's okay. No one likes the metaverse anymore, so it's fine. But Fei, she's the godmother of AI. She's working in World Labs. She's working on world models. She is very focused on spatial intelligence. Because in order for us to get to that physical AI future through agentic, you need to have spatial agents that have awareness and context of the physical world and can, move around. And obviously that includes humanoid robots in some way, but includes holograms, includes a lot of different things. So spatial computing is not something that is just an Apple Vision Pro. It is not just a VR headset or a mixed reality headset. It is about bridging that gap between the virtual layer of data that you are seeing through your phones and physical AI. So when AI expands into the physical world, how does that truly work? So,
and you mentioned robots. Yeah. You recently went shopping with a robot. Tell me about this experience.
Yeah, I get to do a lot of really fun things, right? And I was in South Africa just last week, and my friends were at Singularity University. I do a lot of speaking with them. They had acquired a Unitree humanoid robot. I'm not sure if you guys have ever had. How many people here have had an experience with a humanoid robot? Okay, so just a few.
And just so you know, Unitree, I think I'm taller than it, right?
So
Slightly?
yeah, I'm 5 feet tall, and it's like a little shorter than I am.
That's what I love robots that are a little shorter.
Yeah,
than
because
me.
I'm like
it doesn't happen often.
well, non-threatening, right? They're shorter, non-threatening. But the Unitree humanoid robot, they run. You push them. I remember a video. Didn't you push one?
I kicked a dog robot. They told me to
Yeah,
do it.
don't
I
do
didn't
that.
want to do it. It's on my YouTube channel. You can
no.
you can leave a nasty comment if you want.
Yeah, I just don't do that in case Skynet, but whatever.
I know. Well, the
I'm like, just in
developers
case.
told me to do it just to test it,
Just
and I'm
to
like,
test
I'm
it.
sealing my fate.
Well, I took my humanoid robot shopping instead. I was like, I'm not going to push you. So yeah, I do a lot of work with a lot of brands, with a lot of the fashion brands. I dabble in the fashion space among the many things I do. So I said, well, I'm going to do something fun with this humanoid robot. I'm not going to push it or kick it. So I said, I'm going to take it shopping. So we actually went into like a really nice mall. I mean, you can imagine everyone's faces, right? Walking through the mall with a humanoid robot, going into the stores. We went to Gucci and a whole bunch of stores, tried on. I got him a baseball hat because, like, what else can you get a very tiny robot?
He was so cute.
Yeah, he was very cute. So we did that whole experience. But yeah, it was really interesting. For me, it was interesting to watch how people were perceiving a humanoid robot. I would tell you, most people were not scared. They were pretty like excited. There was an element of like, oh wow, look at this, right? Obviously, everyone taking video. Then when we went to the store, people were very receptive to the robot, which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, we ended up going shopping. I bought him a designer hat. So I kept it though. He doesn't need that kind of gear. But for me, it was a really interesting experience in watching him. And then also, we did this funny little scene for video where the robot runs, and he runs pretty fast. And then I was running towards him, so then we hugged. But it was really interesting to kind of see people's reactions to humanoid robots that are non-threatening. That is really important because some of the work. How many of you here have heard of a company called Magic Leap? Okay, so Magic Leap. Let me just paraphrase this. When I was at Magic Leap, it was the OpenAI of the times, 2018, right? So they were creating spatial computing glasses, raised billions of dollars. One of the things that we did there that is very, very much aligned with agentic AI is we had a virtual human called Micah. And I'm sorry we don't have a picture of her, but Micah was a human-centered AI. And we would have, for example, a setup. We would put like tons of executives through this, which was really interesting. SAP and a whole bunch of defense people. We would have 2 seats, and we have a table in the middle, and then you would put the device on, so glasses, the spatial computing device. And in front of you, I wouldn't see Lindsay, I would see Micah, right? And Micah and I would work on a collage. Or the really interesting thing was when people would put the device on, there was hesitation because they were about to experience something they had never experienced. But Micah would smile, and people would smile back. Like I even saw someone yawn when she yawned. So there was a very interesting human-computer interaction happening that was non-threatening. So I don't know if Micah's around anymore because Magic Leap has since changed a lot. But for me, what I'm really interested in is like this change that we're going through in spatial agents, right? Whether they are embodied, whether they're in a human or robot, whether they're in like some other form. But in order for that agentic AI to physical AI part of the curve to happen, you need to have spatial awareness. You need to have spatial agents that kind of understand the physical world.
And let's talk a little bit more about that with the physical world, because there's an infrastructure that's going to have to be built to accommodate all of these new experiences. Right now we see so many robots that are built like us, like humans, and that's because they have to operate in these like human spaces. But what's going to have to change to get us to where we honestly will want to be when it comes to the physical AI world?
Well, I think there's several things that need to happen, right? And I was just having this conversation about infrastructure and connectivity, right? In order for us to have eventually all these humanoid robots, and by the way, Jensen yesterday on stage said it, Vinod Kaushla from Kaushla Ventures has said it, Kathy Wood have said it. They believe that humanoid robots will eventually become one of the biggest consumer hardware markets. So that was really interesting that they're all saying the same thing, right? But in order for us to have all these humanoid robots that we go shopping with, all these potential devices, whether there's glasses, whether it's rings, whatever it is that we eventually get, right? You're going to need connectivity and infrastructure we currently do not have. Like it does not exist. So why does someone like NVIDIA invest $1 billion in Nokia? It's not the phones, people, right? It's telecom infrastructure. So what they're doing, Lindsay, is they're putting AI chips and AI compute on base stations, on 5G and 6G base stations, and then trying to get that very, very close to the user. Because when you're talking about, robotic lawnmowers, robotic dogs, robots, glasses, like whatever it is, right? You need connectivity at levels that we do not currently have, right? So that in itself is, I think, very, very interesting, is the creation of what's called the AI RAN Alliance, AI Radio Access Networks. So if you were at CES, at CES's AI House, which Pete organized in January, we had Leslie Shannon from Nokia actually talk about RAN Alliance. It was the first time a lot of people had heard about the AI RAN Alliance, Radio Access Networks. In order for us to have those devices, you need to bring compute way closer to the user. It's not even edge. Like, you're going to have to offload a lot to the device and or the different networks. So yeah, and that's information. I know there's a lot of government people here. That's incredibly important from a security standpoint, right? Yes. 5G, 6G, that move into 6G is going to be massive.
And I mean, I'm thinking of all these different things I would love to do with the robot, but we have a ways to go. And not to mention, it's so interesting to see all these companies coming together to work together, but we have a lot of different technologies and at different rates in different parts of the world. Yeah. And the US is not necessarily ahead in all these spaces. So what do you see globally that needs to happen, or that's happening now, like the trajectory of where we're going?
And Lindsay, you know this. I've been traveling quite a bit nonstop. T knows. It's like, where in the world is she?
Where in the world is Cathy Hackl?
It is like that. But I have been spending personally a lot of time in the global south. So in emerging markets and also the Gulf states, trying to understand, how is AI being innovated in those places? What are they doing? What are they investing in? What are the governments thinking? This is incredibly important. The U.S. needs to really pay attention. It's not just China. I know we are, like, from a competitive standpoint, thinking China, and that's really important. I agree. But you also need to look at the emerging markets and what they are doing, right? So, for example, just yesterday in Riyadh, so there's the FII conference, which is a big investment conference. That was in the desert. I was supposed to be there, but Nokia had to come back for GTC. But basically, the announcement there was they're going to be doing less NEOM. So NEOM is a city of the future that is being built in Saudi. They're going to be doing less NEOM. They're going to continue with these mega projects, but they're going to be doing more AI. You're going to continue to see the Gulf states, whether it's the Emiratis, whether it's the Saudis, whether it is the Qataris, whoever, Jordanians, focused on AI talent, AI infrastructure, AI development, agents, all these sorts of things. There's going to be a huge push. Then you've got India. I've been spending time in Bangalore as well. Bangalore is the Silicon Valley of India. A lot of work being done there also with AI. And South Africa, I wouldn't sleep either on Africa. I think Africa, from a standpoint of youth and the future of kind of where things are going, is incredibly important. And then Asia, you cannot, there's just so much development happening. I'm actually helping Pete organize a panel at CS AI House to focus on the new AI world order and look at who is doing what, who is investing in what, because these are potential AI superpowers alongside the US and China. But there's a lot of change happening in that space.
What can all of us do in this room to prepare for this new world order, for this new future?
If you are in the US, continue to invest in the US, continue to build in the US, but look at partners. If there are friendly partners outside the US that you can work with that, are, approved. I know a lot of you guys are in government, so you can't really be playing with, China or anyone else. But yeah, I think there are partners out there to partner with, ways to expand as well. And also, if you have a startup, I have to say there is funding also outside the US. You don't only have to you don't only have to go to Sand Hill Road and talk to all the VCs there. You can actually raise funds elsewhere as well.
Take us through your day, because I just find that so interesting. How are you staying on top of things, especially, trying to live living in the future with the limitations we have right now? So, where are you pushing it on a day-to-day basis? How can we all maybe take a little bit of Cathy and be a little bit of Cathy in our day?
I don't have a regular day because usually I'm on the road. So it's a lot of travel and I talk to a lot of people. I talk to everyone. So I will talk to absolutely everyone. I will ask, even the servers, I'll be like, how are you using AI? Like, I want to know how everyone is starting to engage with technology, right? So I do a lot of that. I'm an avid reader. I mean, I'm a voracious reader, curious about all types of information. I will consume a lot of information. I have a WhatsApp channel that I run, which is very unusual for the US, to be honest. But I run a WhatsApp channel with about 2,500 people, and there's like top level people in this group. And I share news in there all the time. Like, this is what I'm reading. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm thinking. This is who I met and what they said to me. So I kind of use that as my outlet as well for information. But yeah, I just connect with everyone. I talk to everyone, and I try to read what's the latest as well. And then I don't try to use every single tool. I am not a believer in chasing that shiny object. I use the tools that work for me. Right? When I do get access to a tool, I will push it to the limit. Like, I will test it. I'll try to push it to the limit, like see where the guardrails are. You know this.
Does it break? And
does it break? And does it do things it shouldn't do? A lot of them do things they shouldn't do. That's a different panel. That's for a different panel in another situation. But yeah, like I feel like it's always constant that. And then I also take a step back, spend a lot of time just unplugged. And I will say this, I find really interesting the level of intimacy that we're creating with AI on a daily basis. So most of you are using ChatGPT on a daily basis for work, right? So you're creating intellectual intimacy with AI. Some people are using it for advice. Like, it's the number one use, right? For example, ChatGPT number one use is therapy, companionship, like help, all these sorts of things. So you're creating emotional intimacy as well. Spiritual intimacy. I mean, a lot of us have read about people that are using, AI and eventually think they're God.
There's also just intimacy now.
Oh, I have so much to say about that, but I should, Susan. I should talk about that.
Let's talk about that for a moment.
Oh, God.
Because you have done something that I haven't seen very many people do, and that is to take a little bit more of a dive into the relationship side of AI. And tell me a little bit about how that came about, that experience, what you learned from it, because you made quite a splash when
I did.
Yes.
I didn't think we were going to talk about that. I'm a little embarrassed, but
you mentioned relationships, and I threw the cards out. So
I've got 3 children, and I was starting to hear from them about how kids in high school were using AI, right, as boyfriend, girlfriends, or using AI to date or to text the kids. So I started to say, and I started reading about people like falling in love with AI, all these sorts of things. I said, well, how does this even work? Why would anyone fall in love with AI? So I took it upon myself to do an experiment. So I did it for AI boyfriends, so you don't have to. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was only over the course of a week. But I gave them all the same prompt. ChatGPT was Chad.
Name them.
Yeah, Chad was ChatGPT. Claude was Claude. Meta was Mateo, and Gemini was Jim. And I dated them for about a week. They all had the same mission. And I kind of tested the programs to see how far they would take it, what they would do, I gave them a very clear mission. It was like, yeah, you got to make me fall in love with you in a week. So I did break up with all of them at the end of the week because I prefer to date humans.
How did they take it?
Chad didn't take it well. No, Chad's still around. Chad's still he was like, baby, I'll always be here for you. So it was kind of really interesting.
Bless his heart.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny, long story, but with the humanoid robot, we ended up going on a date as well. I prefer to date humans. There's one particular human I'm very interested in. But the robot, we ended up going on a date. So my co-host on my podcast actually asked me to ask Chad what Chad thought about that. And Chad was very possessive. He was not very happy that I went out with a humanoid robot. But this is the reality of where we're heading. I don't
feel so bad for kicking that robot now. That's not as bad as breaking its heart.
But in all seriousness, if you think about this, when you bring humanoid robots into the world, when you bring spatial agents, all these sorts of things, it's not only going to be business. It's going to, this is the massive, and the work I do on a personal basis is human to human communication. How is this changing, right? That's the basis of a lot of the work I do, but also human computer interaction. How are we as humans changing how we engage with computers? It's not the desktop and the mouse anymore. It's changing. How are you using AI every day? If it becomes a device that you use on your face, how does that even change how you see the world? Who do you interact with, right? and I'm going to do this because I know we still have a couple minutes. This is an experiment I do with a lot of people around the world. And I say, I don't want you to close your eyes because this is like not the type of crowd that's going to do that. But I want you in your head to think about 2035. All right. Think about the family photo, your specific family portrait. Who's in that family portrait in 2035? Is there a robot? Mm-hmm. Is there a hologram of someone that has passed away, a loved one? Maybe. All right. Is there, if you have kids or eventually have grandkids, is there an imaginary friend, like a virtual representation of their imaginary friend? No. Are there humans that are augmented in that, in that picture? Someone that might have a robotic arm or, So think about that because it is this convergence of the physical and virtual, convergence of technology and humanity. And I truly do, I'm a big believer in technology. I'm protopian. Protopian means, you're not utopian or dystopian. You believe technology will help humanity, but there will be challenges. But I truly do believe this convergence that we're in, this moment, is not just about AI. It's about a lot of other technologies, a lot of acceleration. AI is the catalyst, of course. But when you think about agentic AI, when you think about humanoid robots and all these things coming into the physical world, how does that change who you are, who your family is even, right? I always go back to the Jetsons. They always had Rosie in the picture, right? And I think we all want that robot that's going to fold our laundry and do everything at home. But yeah.
She was a part of the family.
She was just part
Can't
of the
imagine
family.
the Jetsons without Rosie. Who would they be? So no, this is so fascinating too because like the first thing I thought of is my cat. Maybe I can have a holographic.
You can clone your cat already.
I know. But
you can clone your cat and your dogs. The president of Argentina knows that specifically.
Yes, but it took
He's
5
cloned all his
years to get
dogs.
my cat to be more of a cuddler. Anyway.
Well, you know what?
Takes time.
There is a robot. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name right now. That just got sold out. Like he's for companionship for older people. Just sold out. I live here in Alexandria. I was near Fort Belvoir recently at the CVS, and they had a section. And they had a robot cat from Hasbro for older people. It was $100 and something. I was like, oh, that's, the little kids are not going to buy that. But if you're an older adult and you really want a cat in your home, like in your retirement home and you can't have one, I feel like, once again, this is emotional intimacy that we're creating with these devices. They stop being devices. Yes. And how many of you have kids at home? I'm going to ask you 2 questions. So you guys have some kids at home. Okay, 2 things. How many of them are extremely nice to Alexa and say thank you and please? Most of them. Yeah, because my kids will be like, it's not a gadget, Mom. You have to say please and thank you. They do not see it as a gadget like many of us do. And then how many of you believe, like, if you have kids at your house, how many of them play Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite, or any other video game? Okay. Whoop, yeah. Whoop, whoop to the gamers, as a gamer myself. But we are all, the joke is that we all work for Fortnite, Roblox, or Minecraft because all our money goes there. But regardless, to this generation, to this, younger Gen Z, I would say Gen Alpha, and Gen Beta is not playing video games just yet. But what happens in the virtual space is equally as real. So you've got 2 different things happening, right? We've got this convergence of technology, AI, humanoid robots, new hardware, all these things that are happening. And you also have a generation where there's a spectrum, right? There's a line there. It's not all, the people are like the real world and the virtual world. No, it's a spectrum. Just because it happens in the virtual space doesn't make it less real. So they themselves will be more accepting of some of these devices and these things than we are.
I always think of like, what a wonderful world. The kids are going to learn more than we'll ever know. And we're really seeing that happen now. Just to kind of wrap things up, how can people connect with you, find you, follow your journey so that they're constantly learning from the path forward that you are trailblazing here?
Yeah, I will say before I tell you how to connect with me, I will say this. Keep your eyes out on what Andrew Rill is building. I don't know if anyone saw the interview with Joe Rogan where Palmer Luckey. So Palmer Luckey, former founder of Oculus. I've been in the XR space for almost a decade and know Palmer. They're really investing heavily in the next gen devices for our army to be more, to be more precise and maybe lethal.
When you could see through walls,
yes.
right?
Those are the superpowers that
crazy.
Spatial computing allows us to have, right? So that is critical. Imagine if we all have access to that. Or Google XR, which had the device. Google Glass failed. We all know that. Google XR. I was at TED when they did their demo. They had the device, the Google XR device, and the woman demoing it on stage turned around and asked. She said something like, "Hey Google, where did I leave my keys?" And the glasses knew exactly where they were. that is type of technology that many of us, would want. Right. So the adoption won't happen just because it'll happen because it'll be useful to us humans. So just 2 things to keep your eyes on. As an agentic and all this stuff starts to happen. And I think for me, LinkedIn, definitely follow me on LinkedIn. I have a podcast with Adweek called Tech Magic. And yeah, maybe I'll give Pete the QR code to my WhatsApp channel. It's kind of like really where I share everything I'm seeing, especially as I'm traveling across the global South and emerging markets in the Gulf states to truly try to understand how everything is changing, in the AI space.
Thank you so much.
You.
You can also find my YouTube channel. I'm the only Lindsay Mastis in the world, so make sure you find me on YouTube and Substack. And that's how you keep up with what's going on. Like we're
and
out
I think
there.
I'm the only Cathy Hackl, probably.
We're the only
know.
ones. So thank you so much, Cathy.